She said, "I need to tell you something before it's over." Her words changed everything. Emotional HFY sci-fi story. Captain Eli Raines never thought his week would end like this. Floating above a molten moon, with an alien who could read emotions better than most humans could read maps. He wasn't even supposed to be on this mission. The Aurora's Edge was short-staffed after a meteor storm, and somehow he ended up piloting the expedition shuttle with Dr. Surallen, a Xyrathi biologist who looked like she belonged in a dream rather than a lab coat. She was tall, graceful, with skin that shimmered like sunlight on water. 4 delicate eyes, 2 forward, 2 angled slightly upward, watched everything with quiet curiosity. Her hair wasn't hair at all, but fine silver filaments that glowed softly when she was thinking. Eli wasn't sure what to do with his hands around her. Or his mouth. Mostly his mouth. Because the first thing she said when they launched was, "You humans smell like thunderstorms before rain." He had paused mid-checklist, blinking. Thanks, we shower sometimes." Her lips curved in a way that almost counted as a smile. "It is not an insult. My species finds the scent of ionized oxygen calming." "Right," he said, pretending to know what that meant. "Well, glad I could, calm your nose." For a scientist famous across the Xyrathi consortium, she laughed easily, soft and clear, like wind chimes in a warm breeze. Eli grinned, didn't think aliens laughed. "We do," she said, her crest shimmering faintly, "usually when humans attempt humor." "Ouch," he clutched his chest dramatically. "That's cold, Doc." "I am from a planet of glaciers," she replied with a glint in her eyes. "You should expect as much." The shuttle drifted down toward the molten moon of Doratha's IV, the surface glowing like a sea of liquid fire. The mission was simple on paper: retrieve a crystalline core sample for study, an energy source so powerful that both humans and Xyrathi wanted to understand it. But nothing was ever simple when 2 species, who barely trusted each other, shared a cockpit. "Approach vector is stable," Sierra murmured, her voice calm, melodic, and annoyingly professional. Eli flicked a few switches and smiled. "Stable? You mean perfect. You're flying with the best pilot in the Terran frontier." "I was told you were the only pilot available." "Details," he said with mock offense. "Greatness can be lonely." Her upper eyes rolled, a gesture he decided must mean amusement. "If we crash," she said, "I will remind you of your greatness." "You do that," he said. "I'll be too dead to appreciate it." She gave him a sidelong look, and for a second her smile almost turned genuine. They broke through the moon's thin atmosphere, turbulence shaking the shuttle. Lava rivers glowed below like veins of fire across black rock. The hull rattled, alarms beeped softly, and Eli's hands danced over the controls. Sierra watched him in silence, curious. Humans moved differently, no rhythm, no symmetry. But there was something hypnotic in how confident he seemed, even when things looked uncertain. "How are you not afraid?" she asked suddenly. He chuckled. "Of this? Nah, I've flown through worse. One time I had to land a shuttle with a drunk engineer trying to help. This is paradise in comparison." "You humans laugh at danger," she said. "Yeah," he said, glancing her way. "Otherwise it wins." Something flickered in her expression: interest, maybe respect. Strange philosophy. "It keeps us alive." They landed in a field of cooled magma near the crystalline fault line. The engines hummed low, and the world outside shimmered with heat and ash. Sierra stood and began gathering equipment with precise, graceful motions. "The readings suggest we have a limited window before another eruption. We must be efficient." Eli grabbed a scanner and winked. "Efficiency's my middle name." "I thought it was overconfidence." He laughed. "You're quick, I like that." She tilted her head, studying him. "Humans express attraction through verbal teasing, yes." He nearly dropped the scanner. Sometimes." "Then your statement qualifies." He cleared his throat, cheeks warming. Maybe you started it. Her crest pulsed faintly in color, a Zyrathi equivalent of a blush, he guessed. You are unexpected, Captain Rains. He gave her a crooked smile. Story of my life. As they stepped out onto the surface, their suits shielded them from the burning air. The horizon rippled with molten gold, the sky a strange lavender gray. Eli tried to focus on his readings, but every time she spoke, calm, precise, otherworldly, it was like music in the static. Human heart rate elevated, she said after a pause, reading her visor data. He froze. Wait, you can see that. Yes, your pulse is unusually strong. Are you in distress? Nope, just admiring the view. She looked around at the jagged rocks, the bubbling lava, then back at him. The landscape is inhospitable. Wasn't talking about the landscape. Her eyes widened slightly. Flirtation confirmed, she said, deadpan. He burst out laughing. You're unbelievable. I am a scientist, she said, turning away. But he saw the glow at the base of her neck, warm, flickering like a blush in light. They reached the excavation site, a crater rim glowing faintly blue where the crystal energy pulsed beneath the rock. Sierra knelt beside it, scanning readings. The energy signature is unlike anything recorded. It resonates emotionally. Emotionally, he repeated. You mean like feeling feelings? Yes, it hums at a frequency similar to living thought patterns. He crouched beside her, watching the faint blue light reflect in her eyes. That's weirdly beautiful. It is, she whispered. The universe hides many hearts in unexpected places. He smiled softly. Guess that's true for people too. She met his gaze then, really looked at him, and something shifted. The air between them grew warmer, quieter, almost fragile. For a moment, neither said a word. The lava boiled beneath them, the stars hung silent above, and two completely different lives, human and alien, shared one heartbeat of wonder. Then she stood abruptly, breaking the spell. We should continue. Yeah, he said softly, of course. But he couldn't shake the feeling that something had just started, something bigger than science or duty. Something dangerous. Something beautiful. And it smelled unmistakably, like rain before a storm. The shuttle's landing gear hissed as the engines cooled, sending a soft vibration through the cabin. For a moment, there was only silence, just the rhythmic hum of the ship, the soft glow of Doratha's IV outside, and two hearts beating a little too loudly in the quiet. Eli stretched in his seat. Well, Doc, we're not dead. I call that a successful landing. Sierra looked at him, her eyes gleaming faintly in the blue light. Your definition of success appears flexible. Comes with being human, he said, grinning. We like to survive first, celebrate later. Fascinating, she murmured. My species does not celebrate survival, it is expected. See, that's where we differ, he said, unbuckling his harness. For us, every time we make it through something crazy, it's a reason to dance. Her brow ridges lifted slightly. You dance to celebrate, not dying. Yup, he said, offering her a hand. Welcome to the human condition. She hesitated, then placed her delicate, glowing hand in his. You are a strange species. And you're a very polite one, he replied, helping her up. That's gonna make this trip interesting. They stepped out into the heat. The ground pulsed faintly, molten light seeping through cracks like the planet's heartbeat. The air shimmered around them, and their boots sank slightly into warm dust. Sierra's voice came through the comms, calm as ever. Radiation levels are climbing but manageable. We must be cautious. Eli looked out at the horizon, where rivers of lava flowed like fire veins. You sure know how to pick vacation spots, Doc. This is science, not leisure, she replied. Same thing if you do it right, he said with a smirk. Her laugh was soft but genuine this time. Your optimism is statistically concerning. He touched the side of his helmet as if tipping an invisible hat. That's Captain Optimism to you. They began their trek toward the crystal site. The terrain was unstable, jagged black rock and glassy ridges formed from cooled magma. The sky above them flickered with streaks of violet lightning from the magnetic storms higher up. Every now and then, the ground trembled gently, reminding them that Darathas was very much alive. Sierra walked with fluid grace, barely disturbed by the uneven surface. Eli, on the other hand, managed to trip twice, curse once, and nearly drop the scanner into a fissure. Human coordination seems limited, she noted. Hey, he said, regaining balance. We're built for charm, not elegance. Charm, she repeated thoughtfully, a dangerous trait. Only if it works, he said, flashing a grin. Her upper eyes blinked, clearly confused. You continue to confuse me, Captain Rains. He shrugged. Good, keeps things interesting. When they reached the dig site, the view stopped them both. Below the cracked ground, blue light pulsed in a slow rhythm, alive, warm, hypnotic. The crystal chamber glowed through translucent rock, like the moon's heart beating just beneath the surface. Sierra knelt beside the scanner, her hand steady. It's reacting to us. Eli crouched next to her. Reacting how? Energy flux rises when we approach. It's as if it senses thought. Creepy. Beautiful, she corrected softly. Eli turned toward her. Yeah, he said quietly, beautiful. For a long moment they just watched the glow together. The blue reflected in her eyes, turning them into small galaxies. He wanted to say something, something clever or meaningful, but his mouth betrayed him. So, he started, you ever listen to music while you work? She glanced at him. Music. Yeah, rhythm, melody, lyrics, that sort of thing. I listen to the songs of collapsing stars, she said with complete seriousness. He blinked. The songs of collapsing stars. Yes, the Xyrathi translate cosmic frequencies into sound. It is a reminder that creation often begins in destruction. He stared at her for a moment, speechless. I usually go with 80s rock. Is that a weapon? She asked, perfectly serious. He laughed so hard he nearly lost his balance. Only emotionally, Doc. Her crest flickered in confusion, then slowly glowed gold, the Xyrathi equivalent of amusement. You are impossible. Hey, he said, still laughing, you started it. She shook her head. You humans turn chaos into humor. That's how we survive it, he said simply. They worked together for hours. Sierra focused on extracting readings from the surface fractures while Eli stabilized the ground with portable anchor drives. Every now and then, one of them would crack a joke, or try to, and the other would pretend not to laugh. The tension between them, though light and playful, hummed like static under the surface. As the day dimmed, the heat softened. Above them, the violet clouds rolled in silence. Sierra stood, stretching, her silvery tendrils catching the fading light. Eli watched her for a second too long before realizing it. She noticed. Your stare is prolonged, she said. He coughed. Sorry, I'm making sure you weren't overheating. Her crest pulsed gently. Humans do not stare at machinery that way. Taché, he muttered. She turned away, but he caught the faint flicker of light along her shoulders, like the glow of embarrassment. He smiled to himself. Later, they sat near the shuttle's ramp, the crystal field below them glowing softly in the dusk. The silence wasn't awkward anymore. It was comfortable, shared. Sierra spoke first. Your people live such short lives, and yet you laugh more than any species I have met. That's because we don't have time not to, he said. She studied him for a long moment. That is sad. Maybe, he said, but it's also what makes everything mean something. Her eyes softened. You make tragedy sound like poetry. He smiled faintly. We call that being human. A distant rumble shook the air. The ground trembled lightly beneath them. Both turned toward the horizon, where a thin line of light pulsed, like a heartbeat deep within the planet. That's not normal, Eli said, standing. Sierra scanned quickly. The moon's core is unstable. The crystal's resonance may be affecting the magnetic field. In English, Doc. She looked up, serious now. We may have awakened something. Eli exhaled slowly. Great. First date and we're already breaking planets. Date? She asked, blinking. He grinned, figure of speech. But as the light from below grew brighter, blue shifting toward gold, he couldn't shake the thought that maybe the universe had just decided to throw them together for a reason. The ground trembled again. At first it was a gentle vibration, almost like the hum of a sleeping engine. But then the sound deepened, a growl from the planet's heart, and the black rock beneath their boots began to crack. Eli's instincts kicked in. That doesn't sound like a friendly earthquake. Sierra's crest flickered pale blue, a sign of alarm. The resonance, the crystal field is destabilizing. A loud crack split the air. The ground near the shuttle caved in, spewing dust and blue light. Lava hissed through the fractures, glowing like veins of fire. Eli grabbed Sierra's arm without thinking. Run. They sprinted toward the shuttle as the surface shifted and groaned behind them. Chunks of molten rock burst upward, heat blasting through their suits. For a moment, the world was just noise, roaring, glowing chaos. Then the sky itself split open in a line of lightning. The blast threw them off their feet. The last thing Eli saw before everything went white was Sierra reaching for him, her glowing eyes wide with something that wasn't fear, but worry. When he came to, the air was thick with smoke. Alarms screamed inside the shuttle, and the smell of burnt metal filled the cabin. Eli coughed and sat up, his vision spinning. Sierra. A soft light glowed near the far wall. Sierra was there, pinned under a fallen console, her bioluminescence flickering weakly. He scrambled toward her, ignoring the pain in his shoulder. Hey, stay with me. She looked up, dazed. Captain Rains, you. Eli, he interrupted. Just Eli, and yeah, I'm fine, you on the other hand. The containment field failed, she murmured. If the core breaches, the entire moon could. Okay, no more science talk, he said quickly. Let's get you free first. He braced his arms and heaved the metal off her. The strain burned through his muscles, but he didn't stop until the console clattered aside. Then he reached down and pulled her into a sitting position. Her breathing was fast, shallow. You risked. Yeah, he said, forcing a grin. It's a thing we humans do, heroic stupidity, genetic flaw. Her crest flickered faint gold. I should study it. He laughed softly. You can write a whole paper later. Right now we need power. The lights flickered dimly. The cockpit was a wreck, half the panels fried, smoke curling from the control board. Outside, the glow of molten rivers painted everything red. Sierra steadied herself and moved to the console. I can reroute minimal power to life support. Eli joined her, fumbling with the wires. And I can reroute coffee to my veins once this is over. She gave him a puzzled look. Is that self-medication? It's a human survival ritual, he said, smirking. Caffeine and denial. Her lips curved in amusement, despite everything. Then by all means survive. For a few moments they worked in silence. The air was hot, tense, alive. Sparks popped around them as Sierra's glowing fingers danced across the interface, her movements fast but graceful. Eli couldn't help but admire her focus. You ever stop to breathe? He asked. She didn't look up. Breathing is automatic. He grinned. See, that's the problem. You're all logic, no chaos. She glanced at him, one corner of her mouth lifting. And you are all chaos. Guess we balance each other out. Another tremor shook the ship, harder this time. The hull screamed as the ground outside shifted again. Sierra stumbled, and Eli caught her by the arm before she fell. For a second they were close, too close. Her glowing eyes met his, her breath soft against his cheek through the thin suit seals. Time stretched. Your pulse, she whispered, it's so loud. Eli swallowed, still holding her. That's what happens when the world's falling apart and a gorgeous alien is in my arms. She tilted her head. Is that another flirtation? Could be, he said quietly, or maybe it's just the truth. For once she didn't answer. Her gaze lingered on him, thoughtful and strange, as if she was seeing something she hadn't studied before. Then she gently stepped back, the moment dissolving like smoke. Minutes later, power flickered back to life. The cabin lights came on dimly, and the sound of engines returning to standby filled the space. Sierra exhaled slowly, stabilized for now, but the seismic readings continued to rise. Eli leaned against the wall, exhausted but grinning. See, what I tell you, improvising, it's an Earth specialty. She looked at him curiously. You act as though danger is routine. It kind of is, he admitted. Humans are good at almost dying and calling it experience. Your species confuses me, she said softly. Good, he replied. Wouldn't want to be predictable. Outside, lightning danced across the violet sky, reflecting off the molten seas. The shuttle sat half buried in cracked rock, glowing like a wounded animal. Inside, the temperature rose, and the air smelled faintly of ozone and dust. Sierra leaned against the console, her voice quieter now. Captain Eli, you should rest. Your heart rate is elevated. Yeah, he said, sitting beside her. Can't imagine why. Because you fear, she said simply. He looked at her, surprised. You think I'm scared? I can sense it, she said. You hide it well, but it's there. He smiled faintly. Of course it is. Fear's part of the job, it's what keeps us alive. Not bravery. He met her gaze. Bravery's just fear in motion. Something flickered in her expression, something human. That is beautiful. Maybe, he said softly, but it's also true. The silence that followed wasn't heavy. It was gentle. Outside, the storms had quieted, and the planet's glow filled the small space with a strange, peaceful light. Sierra closed her eyes for a moment, her glow dimming to a calm, golden hue. You saved my life today. He chuckled. Yeah, well, you saved me from dying of boredom. Guess we're even. She opened her eyes and looked at him. Humans deflect gratitude with humor. Maybe, he said, meeting her gaze. Or maybe it's easier to laugh than to admit I was scared to lose you. Her four eyes blinked, slow and uncertain, as if she didn't know how to respond. Then softly she said, You are very inconvenient, Eli Rains. He grinned. You have no idea. A faint tremor rippled through the hull again, but they didn't move this time. For the first time since landing, the danger felt far away, just a whisper under the surface. Eli leaned back, looking up at the ceiling. You know, Doc, we might just make it through this. Sierra looked at him, her light flickering softly. You truly believe that? He turned to her, smiling. With you here, yeah, I do. And for a brief moment, before the next storm, before the next quake, they just sat there, two lost souls from different worlds, breathing the same air and pretending the universe wasn't breaking around them. The storm above them had quieted, but the moon below had not. Duratha's IV still rumbled, its molten heart restless beneath cracked stone. Inside the damaged shuttle, shadows flickered across the walls as sparks jumped from broken panels. The soft glow from Sierra's body painted the small cabin in blue and silver light, gentle, almost dreamlike. Eli sat cross-legged on the floor with his sleeves rolled up, surrounded by wires, tools, and what looked suspiciously like a half-eaten energy bar. His face was streaked with soot, his hair a mess. Sierra stood nearby, watching him with a mix of concern and fascination. You intend to repair the thruster control system with adhesive tape. He grinned without looking up. Not just tape, premium Terran tape, holds the universe together one ship at a time. She tilted her head, baffled. That cannot possibly work. It usually doesn't, he admitted cheerfully, but somehow it still does. Her crest glowed faintly gold, her version of a sigh. Humans survive through chaos. Now you're getting it. He tightened a bolt, sparks flew, and he yelped, jerking his hand back. Ow, hot. Sierra moved quickly, kneeling beside him. Show me. It's fine, he muttered. Just a little burn, hey. She took his hand anyway. Her fingers were cool and soft, her glow pulsing faintly over his skin. A tingling sensation spread through his palm, and he stared as the burn mark faded slowly. Wow, he said softly, you can heal. Not heal, she corrected. Accelerate tissue regeneration. It's a mild field effect. Still, he said, looking at her, that's amazing. Her eyes met his, curious. Humans find small miracles in everything. He smiled gently. That's because we have to. She blinked slowly, studying him as if trying to understand something invisible. The hours passed. The air grew heavy with the smell of metal and static. They worked together in silence, Sierra adjusting power conduits while Eli patched the damaged thruster lines. The sound of the moon's heartbeat, deep tremors from below, filled the background like distant drums. At one point, a small explosion from the generator made both of them flinch. Still alive, Eli shouted, half laughing. Barely, Sierra said dryly, brushing ash from her arm. He grinned. See, teamwork. Your definition of teamwork is concerning. He winked, but effective. Despite the heat and the danger, there was laughter, small bursts of warmth between the chaos. For Sierra, it was strange. Her people didn't joke when things went wrong. They analyzed, calculated, controlled. But Eli, he felt, and somehow that kept both of them moving. When the repairs were finally stable, Eli slumped back against the wall, breathing hard. Okay, the thrusters should work long enough to get us off this frying pan. Sierra nodded. The seismic readings have increased. We must act soon. Give me 5 minutes, he said, closing his eyes. Just 5. She studied him quietly. He looked fragile in a way she had never seen a human look before. His face was tired, smudged with soot, yet there was still that strange spark, the one that had fascinated her from the moment they met. Sierra sat beside him, her light dimming to a soft glow. You risk too much, she said quietly. He opened one eye. Story of my life. Why, she asked. You could have stayed aboard your larger ship, others would have come. He smiled faintly. Yeah, but they wouldn't have been me. She frowned slightly. Arrogance. Confidence, he corrected. Then, after a pause, also curiosity. You're interesting, Sierra. Her crest shimmered faintly. Interesting. Yeah, you look at the universe like it's math. I look at it like a dare. Between the two of us, we might actually figure it out. She turned her head toward him, her voice softer. You make danger sound like art. And you make logic sound romantic, he said. Her glow deepened, the Zyrathi equivalent of a blush. For a while they said nothing. Outside, the moon's tremors grew stronger. Inside, the lights flickered and dimmed again. The cabin seemed smaller, quieter, almost intimate. Sierra's voice broke the silence. Eli, when I first met humans, I thought you were reckless, unpredictable, irrational. Guilty as charged, he said. But now, she hesitated, her eyes thoughtful. Now I think perhaps it is not recklessness, it is heart. He looked at her. Heart. Yes, she said softly. You act not because it is logical, but because it feels right. That is both your weakness and your strength. He smiled gently. You say that like it's a bad thing. It frightens me, she whispered. His grin faded. Hey, I'd never want to scare you. You do not understand, she said, looking away. Where I come from, emotion is seen as disorder. To feel too much is to lose clarity, but with you, I find it harder not to feel. Eli's breath caught for a moment. Sierra. She shook her head slightly, standing up. We should prepare for launch. He nodded slowly. Yeah, right. But the air between them stayed charged, a quiet storm of things unsaid. They moved around the cabin, checking systems, calibrating engines. Eli worked faster than usual, partly from nerves, partly from adrenaline. He caught glimpses of her in the corner of his eye, graceful, calm, luminous, and every time his chest tightened a little more. Then came another rumble, deeper and stronger than before. The entire ship jolted. Warning lights flashed red. "Power surge," Eli shouted. "The core is resonating again," Sierra cried, gripping the console. The ship tilted sharply, throwing them both off balance. Sierra fell against him, and for a heartbeat, a single, perfect heartbeat, they were pressed together in the chaos. Eli steadied her, his hands on her shoulders. "You okay?" Her voice trembled. "Your heart, it is racing again." He smiled, trying to breathe. "Can you blame it? The universe is shaking and you keep standing too close." Her lips parted as if to speak, but she said nothing. The only sound was the thundering pulse, his heartbeat echoing between them, strong and alive. And somewhere deep below, the moon seemed to echo it. When the tremors eased, Sierra slowly stepped back. "You must rest soon. You are burning too fast." "Guess that's another human thing," he said with a small grin. "We burn bright or not at all." She looked at him for a long time, then said quietly, "You are remarkable." Eli laughed softly. "Careful, Doc, that almost sounded like a compliment." "Almost," she replied, but there was warmth in her voice now, something fragile, something new. As they stood side by side, watching the storm clouds shift outside the viewport, Eli thought that for all the danger, for all the heat and fear, this moment standing here with her was worth every risk. Because somehow, on a dying moon in a broken ship, they'd both found something unexpected, a heartbeat worth listening to. The storm outside had gone silent. That kind of silence that never feels safe, too still, too heavy, like the world is holding its breath. Inside the shuttle, Sierra stood over the console, scanning the new readings. Her glow had dimmed to a pale blue, the color of worry. Eli leaned over her shoulder, reading the numbers upside down. He didn't need to understand alien code to know bad news when he saw it. "Tell me that's not what I think it is," he said. Sierra's voice was soft but steady. "The core chamber is collapsing. The energy levels are unstable. If the crystal breaches, the entire moon will." "Let me guess," Eli cut in. "Go boom." "Violently," she confirmed. Eli rubbed his face. "Great, we fixed the ship just in time to blow up with it." Sierra turned toward him. "There is still one way to stabilize the reaction." He frowned. "You're giving me that self-sacrifice tone again. I don't like that tone." She met his eyes, calm and certain. "The chamber can only be accessed by biological interface. My physiology can survive the radiation long enough to reset the crystal's resonance." "What happens after?" he asked, though he already knew. She looked away. "It will destroy my neural lattice." "In English, Doc." "I will die." Eli froze. For a heartbeat, the universe stopped. Even the hum of the damaged engines seemed to fade. "No," he said immediately, "not happening." "It must," she replied simply. "There is no other option." "There's always another option," he snapped. "We'll find another way." Sierra's crest flickered gently. "You don't understand, Eli. The longer we wait, the stronger the reaction becomes. It will destroy the moon and us with it." "Then we go together," he said fiercely. "I'm not letting you just walk into a glowing death pit." Her 4 eyes softened, almost sad. "You would risk everything for me." He laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Have you met me? I risk everything for bad coffee and shiny buttons. You think I'm gonna stop at you?" She blinked. "I am not worth." "Don't," he said sharply. "Don't finish that sentence. You are worth everything." For the first time she looked unsure, like something inside her was cracking. They stood in silence. The ship creaked. The floor vibrated with distant thunder from beneath. The planet was running out of time, and so were they. Sierra took a slow breath. Eli, listen to me. I have to do this. It is my responsibility. He shook his head. You're not doing it alone. You cannot survive the radiation, she said firmly. Your biology will collapse within seconds. Then I'll build a shield. There is no time. I'll figure it out. Her voice rose, sharp and full of something raw. You cannot fix everything. Eli stopped. The words hit him harder than the quake. Sierra's glow flickered wildly, her composure breaking. You think the universe bends for your courage, but it does not. It only watches, and still you throw yourself into the fire again and again. Why? He took a step toward her. Because sometimes, he said quietly, you have to burn a little to bring light. Sierra stared at him, really stared, and for a moment she wasn't the calm scientist or the proud alien. She was just someone terrified of losing something precious. You humans, she whispered, you are unbearable. He smiled sadly. Yeah, I've heard that before. Sierra turned back to the console, her movements fast, determined. I must go now. Every second counts. Eli's hand shot out, catching her wrist. Wait. She looked at him, her eyes glowing faintly. I know you think this is the right thing, he said, voice rough. But before you do anything heroic and stupid, I need you to hear something. Her crest dimmed, curious. What is it? He hesitated, the words caught in his throat. His heart was racing, loud enough that he swore she could hear it. Eli, she began, but he shook his head. No, let me say it, he said. I don't know how this started. Maybe it was your laugh. Maybe it was how you call me illogical and then do something twice as dangerous 5 minutes later. Or maybe it was just you. The way you look at the universe like it's something worth understanding. He stepped closer, his voice softer now. You made me want to understand it too. You made me feel like maybe all this madness, the stars, the danger, the chaos, means something. And if I lose you, none of it does. Sierra's lips parted, but no words came out. He smiled weakly. So yeah, that's what I wanted to say. She was silent for a long moment. Then quietly she said, I want to tell you something before I finish. His chest tightened. Don't say that like it's goodbye. It may be, she said, her voice trembling now. So listen. He swallowed hard, nodding. She stepped closer until the blue light from her body touched his face. When I first met you, I thought humans were chaos wrapped in flesh. Loud, emotional, reckless. But you changed that. You taught me something I did not think possible. What's that? He whispered. She looked into his eyes, and for the first time her voice cracked. That the universe is not cold, not when someone like you exists in it. Eli's throat went dry. Sierra. She smiled, small, fragile, radiant. You turn fear into laughter, pain into stories. You make life beautiful. He tried to answer, but she leaned forward and pressed her forehead gently against his, the Zirathi gesture of affection. Her light wrapped around them like a soft halo. Goodbye, Eli Rains, she whispered. Remember, not all stars burn alone. And before he could stop her, she was gone. The door to the chamber sealed shut. Through the viewport, Eli saw her step into the radiant blue glow. Her silhouette shimmered like starlight, her body outlined in energy. The chamber blazed brighter and brighter until it was impossible to look. Sierra, he shouted, slamming his hands against the glass. Don't you dare fade on me. The ship shook violently, the reading spiked, the entire moon roared. And then her voice came through the calm, faint, soft and steady. Eli the crystal, it's beautiful. Then static. Eli's breath caught, his heart hammered in his chest. And for the first time in a long time, the man who joked through danger, the pilot who laughed in the face of chaos, could only whisper one word, barely holding himself together. Sierra. The light was blinding. The whole chamber glowed like the heart of a newborn star, swallowing everything in blue and white. Eli stood frozen at the viewport, one hand pressed against the glass, his reflection trembling in the glare. For a moment, it looked like the entire world had vanished, like she had vanished, and all that was left was the glow. Then the readings dropped, and he knew she was gone. "No," he whispered. "No, no, no." He hit the controls, desperate. "Come on, Sierra, talk to me." The comm crackled static, empty. He slammed his fist on the console. "You said the universe isn't cold. You don't get to leave me in the dark." The ship shook beneath him. Warning lights flashed red. The crystal's energy surged through the core, tearing through the ground like a pulse. Outside, the surface of the moon began to split apart. Eli didn't think. He moved. He grabbed his helmet, sealed it, and sprinted for the hatch. The radiation alarm screamed as he forced it open. The heat hit him like a wall, but he didn't stop. The sky was a storm of fire and lightning. Rivers of molten rock crisscrossed the ground. In the distance, the crystal chamber glowed like a sun being born. And somewhere inside that light was Sierra. "Hold on," he muttered through gritted teeth, stumbling down the ridge. "I'm coming, Doc." His boots sank into the hot ash. The air shimmered with energy, burning through his suit's shields faster than they could regenerate. Sweat poured down his neck. But he kept running. Every step was agony, his body screaming at him to stop, but his mind refused. He wasn't built to quit. Not now. Not when she was still out there. When he reached the chamber, the light was almost blinding. The air buzzed with power. His suit sensors went wild, radiation off the charts. "Eli Raines," he muttered to himself, "you are officially insane." Then he grinned, teeth clenched. Good thing insanity's a human specialty. He dove into the glow. The moment he crossed the threshold, his breath caught. The chamber wasn't just light, it was alive. The walls shimmered like glass, pulsing with every beat of his heart. And in the center, kneeling beside the crystal, was Sierra. Her body was surrounded by arcs of blue energy, her glow flickering weakly. She looked like she was fatting a candle in a storm. "Sierra," he shouted, stumbling toward her. She turned her head slowly, her 4 eyes unfocused. "Eli, you shouldn't be here." "Yeah, well, you should have waited for me," he said, kneeling beside her. "That's the deal, remember, teamwork." Her voice was faint. "You can't survive this." "Watch me," he said, grabbing her shoulders. The heat seared through his suit. The display blinked red, critical exposure. He didn't care. He tightened his grip. "You're not doing this alone, not after everything we've been through." She shook her head weakly. "The resonance if you touch it." "I'm not touching the crystal," he said. "I'm touching you." He lifted her into his arms. She was light, too light, and her glow was flickering faster now. Her head rested against his chest. "Your heart," she whispered. "It's too fast." He smiled weakly. "Can't help it, you keep scaring it." She laughed, a small, trembling sound that made his chest ache. "Just stay with me," he said, standing. "We're getting out of here." "The core." "I'll figure it out," he said. "You said humans make miracles out of chaos, right? Let's make one." The ground shook beneath them. The crystal flared, sending a wave of energy through the room. Eli shielded her with his body, gritting his teeth as the radiation alarm screamed in his helmet. He staggered toward the exit, every step a battle. The path behind them collapsed into molten rock. The air was thick with blue mist and fire. "Eli," Sierra said weakly, "you'll die if you stay." He smiled through the pain. "Maybe, but if I don't, you definitely will. So let's call this a bad bargain I'm happy to make." Her eyes filled with something like tears, faint drops of light running down her cheeks. "Why do you always do this?" He laughed hoarsely. "Because I'm human and we're terrible at goodbyes." The final blast hit as they reached the edge of the chamber. The energy field buckled, throwing them both to the ground. Eli wrapped his arms around her, shielding her again. The light swallowed them whole. Then silence. When Eli opened his eyes, everything was dim. The air was still. The glow had faded. He coughed weakly, the world spinning. Still breathing, good sign. Beside him, Sierra stirred. Her glow was faint but steady now, softer, golden instead of blue. She looked at him in confusion. Eli, the core, it's stable. He smiled, half-conscious. Told you, improvising, what we do best. She blinked slowly. You should be dead. He chuckled. Give me a few minutes. He collapsed back against the floor, laughing weakly. So, how's that for teamwork? Sierra knelt beside him, her hands trembling as she touched his cheek. Your body, it's damaged. Yeah, well, he said softly. Nothing a few cups of coffee won't fix. Her expression wavered between exasperation and wonder. You risked your life for me. He looked at her, eyes half closed. Wouldn't be the first time I've done something stupid for someone incredible. Sierra's crest glowed faintly, flickering like candlelight. You are unlike anything I've ever known. He smiled, barely awake. Guess that makes two of us. She leaned closer, her voice breaking. Eli, you saved me. His breathing slowed, a weak grin on his face. Yeah, but next time you're buying dinner. Her laugh came out choked, almost a sob. Human nonsense, she whispered. He smiled faintly. You love it. She stared down at him, her glow deepening into a warm, golden hue. Then carefully she placed her hand over his heart. So loud, she murmured. So alive. Don't forget that sound, he said, voice fatting. Her light brightened, wrapping around them both. I won't. Outside, the moon was quiet again. The sky shimmered with new stars, the energy from the crystal scattering into space like tiny points of light. Inside the broken shuttle, Sierra sat beside Eli's still form, her glow gently illuminating his face. She bent close, her voice soft as starlight. You said humans make miracles from chaos, she whispered. You just proved it. Then she smiled, tender and fierce all at once, and whispered, Now come back to me, Eli Rains. And as she leaned close, her light spread golden and alive, until, somewhere deep in his chest, his heartbeat answered. Slow, strong, human, alive. The light came first. A soft, golden light, warm and gentle, like sunrise after a long storm. Eli felt it before he saw it. It touched his skin, brushed through his hair, and whispered against his chest. Then came sound. A quiet hum, a rhythm, a heartbeat. His. He opened his eyes slowly, blinking through the haze. The ceiling above him was cracked, wires dangling like vines. The air smelled like dust, ozone, and something sweet, faintly floral, faintly her. He turned his head. Sierra sat beside him, her glow steady and bright now, gold streaked with faint blue. Her hands rested in her lap, but her eyes were locked on his face. Hey, he croaked, voice rough, did we blow up? Her crest shimmered faintly, not entirely. He groaned, trying to sit up, so that's a yes. She reached out and gently pushed him back down. You should not move, your body is still recovering. He grinned weakly, can't keep a good pilot down. You nearly died, she said softly. Nearly, he echoed, keyword being nearly, humans like a little drama. Her 4 eyes blinked in disbelief. You just even after death. He smiled. Technically it's after almost death, big difference. For a second her lips twitched, almost a smile, almost. The shuttle's lights flickered weakly, but the systems hummed again. Somehow the moon had stabilized. Outside the viewport, the molten rivers had cooled and the storms above were gone. The surface shimmered under a soft, golden sky, calm, finally calm. Sierra stood and adjusted a few controls, her movements elegant even in exhaustion. Eli watched her quietly, smiling to himself. You know, he said, for a scientist who swore emotions were inefficient, you're doing a lot of caring. She paused, her back to him. Perhaps efficiency was overrated. He chuckled, I could have told you that. She turned then, crossing the small space to stand beside him. Her light glowed brighter now, painting his face in soft gold. "Eli," she said quietly. He sat up a little. "Yeah." Her expression softened, something vulnerable flickering behind her calm exterior. "When I was in the chamber, I saw something. Memories, maybe, flashes of your mind." He blinked. "Mine?" "Yes," her voice trembled slightly. "A sky filled with blue instead of violet. Rain, music, people laughing, so much noise and color, so much life." He smiled faintly. "Earth." "It was beautiful," she said, almost in awe. "And loud and messy and full of warmth." He nodded. "Yeah, that sounds like home." She hesitated. "Do you ever miss it?" "All the time," he admitted. "But I think maybe I was supposed to find something out here first." Her eyes met his. "Something." He smiled softly. "Someone." The silence that followed wasn't awkward. It was full, alive. The kind of silence that meant everything had been said without words. Then, of course, Eli broke it with a grin. "So, not to ruin the moment, but do I still look as handsome as before, or did radiation improve me?" Her crest flared faintly gold, her version of a laugh. "You look remarkably intact for someone who walked through a star." "I'll take that as a compliment." "It was," she said. He looked at her, surprised by the softness in her tone. "You're learning." "I have a good teacher." He chuckled. "Careful, Doc. Compliments like that might make me fall for you all over again." She tilted her head. "Again." He grinned. "You didn't notice the first time." Her glow deepened, and for a moment she looked away. "Humans are confusing." "That's our charm," he said. "Confusion wrapped in courage." Later, as the engines hummed back to life, they sat side by side in the cockpit. The silence between them was peaceful this time, not tense, not fearful. Outside, the stars stretched endlessly, sharp and bright against the dark. Sierra's voice broke the quiet. "When I thought I was going to die, I wasn't afraid." Eli turned to her. "No." She shook her head slowly. "I was sad because I realized something too late." He leaned closer. "What's that?" Her eyes glowed softly as she looked at him. "That I didn't want my last thought to be science. I wanted it to be you." Eli froze. His grin vanished, replaced by something real and raw. She continued, her voice trembling. "You humans, you connect everything to feeling. You live as if every breath matters. I used to think that was weakness. Now I think it is your greatest strength." He smiled gently. "You're learning pretty fast for someone who called emotions illogical." She met his gaze. "Perhaps logic is overrated too." He laughed softly. "Now you sound human." She tilted her head, curious. "Would that be a bad thing?" "Not even a little," he said. The ship broke through the upper atmosphere. The molten clouds faded beneath them, replaced by the calm black of space. Eli reached over and rested his hand near hers, close, not touching, but close enough that the warmth of her light brushed his skin. "So, Doc," he said lightly, "what's next for us? Save another moon, crash another shuttle?" She smiled faintly. "Perhaps, but first I would like to see your home, the world you showed me." He blinked. "Earth." "Yes," she said softly. "I want to hear the rain, to see why your people laugh so loudly." Eli grinned. "Deal. But fair warning, rain ruins your hair, coffee is addictive, and humans can't stop hugging things they like." Sierra's crest shimmered gently. "Then I must prepare for chaos." "You'll fit right in." They sat there for a long while, watching the stars glide by. The hum of the ship was steady now, soft and calm. Then Sierra spoke again, her voice quiet but sure. "Eli, I want to tell you something before I finish." He turned, his heart skipping. "You already told me a lot of things, Doc." "Not this," she said. Her light brightened not with fear but warmth. She reached out, her cool fingers brushing his cheek. "When I first met you, I thought humans were fragile," she whispered. "Now I see you are made of fire." He smiled, breathless. And you're made of starlight. Guess that makes us one hell of a team." Her lips curved into a smile, real, soft, full of something more than logic. "Then chase this," she whispered, "because I'm not finished." And before he could reply, she leaned forward and kissed him. It was brief, delicate, but it carried everything they hadn't said. The storm, the laughter, the fear, the endless sky, all in one heartbeat. When she pulled away, the stars outside seemed to shimmer brighter. Eli laughed softly, dazed. "You know, Doc, you just made every romantic movie in the galaxy obsolete." She smiled, "Good." As the ship soared into the night, two lights shimmered in the cockpit, one golden, one human. Somewhere behind them, Doratha's IV glowed softly, reborn from chaos. And somewhere ahead in the distance, Earth waited blue, wild, alive. The stars whispered around them. The universe was vast, cold, and endless. But not for them. Not anymore. Because somehow, against all odds, a human and an alien had found each other and turned the dark into light.